All righty. Good evening, all. Welcome to our May 22nd PSSC theme Thursday. We're anxious to meet and hear what Mary Aslin has to show us tonight. Mary has quite a bit of experience. She's a member of Oil Painters of America. She's a member of the prestigious California Art Club and a signature member of the Pastel Society of America and the Pastel Society of the West Coast. She is also a Master Circle member of the International Association of Pastel Societies. And I know she remembers, but she also happened to have been the judge for our 23 member show, right, Mary?
I was,
Yeah.
indeed.
So thank you for that and welcome and take it away.
And thank you very much, Margie, for asking me to do figure in the landscape because it's one of my most favorite things in the world to paint, the figure in the landscape. So let's see here. Let me get my...
Well, also, Mary, the nice thing about that is we have a lot of painters here that just do landscape. And we have a lot of figurative painters on here too.
Well, you've got a leg up from me because Everett Raymond Kinsler said if you want to paint the figure better, you go out and paint the landscape because it teaches you all about planes and how light works.
Oh,
and
like that.
So good on you all for the painting the landscape. That's plein air painting in the landscape is very hard for me, and yet I keep working on it. So. Okay, so here's some examples of some figurative paintings that I've done in the past. And I want you just to take a mental note of these are different than something you'd see in an interior studio light. When you're painting in the outdoor landscape, there's a lot of light and a lot of shapes and a lot of variables, and it's very hard to simplify. And the challenge is to tell your story with the figure, but know exactly how to subdue the other elements. The figure part is the easier part. It's how do you place the other elements in the scene so that they don't compete and they help tell the story. These are some larger pastel paintings. The one on the far right and the far left are 6 feet high.
Wow.
And 4 feet wide, and they were painted on canvas, and I'll get into surfaces in a little bit. The middle ones are about 40 by 60. And I always use live models to pose and do studies. It's really key because there's a synergy between the artist and the model, and they contribute a lot to helping tell the story. And by the way, interrupt anytime with questions. These are just to cut to the chase with pastels, and then I'm going to get back to the process. These are the pastels that I love the most. I've used them all. They're all wonderful, but if I could pick any in my box, it would be Sennelier, Unison, Terry Ludwig, and Rembrandt's. They all have their strengths. Great Americans are nice too. The palette's a little bit more muted and gray. I even have some Henri Rochers, but those are very expensive. My favorite paper is Sennelier Le Carte. The new mixed media paper where you can use a liquid underpainting is good. That actually works very nicely. I like UArt 500. The big pastels are on Frederick's Knickerbocker canvas. It's 574. It's a very, very, very fine weave. And I prime it with pastel primer. And the reason that I put a canvas on is I was trying to mimic the cushiony feel of Sennelier Le Carte. And I thought if I use a very, very fine tight weave canvas, it can give me that little bit of cushiony feel. And the Art Spectrum Primer grain is a little bit bigger than the Le Carte, but it's very, very forgiving. And it works for, this is a little bit of an interesting note. Because of its grain being a little bit bigger, it works well for molecules of light bouncing around which is what light does. Excuse me one second. I'm bending over at the waist to be low. I'm going to grab a stool. Hang on just a minute.
Okay.
So I can be more at eye level. Okay, I also like Pastel Matte. I've used it many times and I really like it. Takes a bit of buildup. I'm a bull in a china shop. I'm not delicate at all. I go in really hard with the pastel and then I brush off the excess heaviness of the binder and leave the stain behind. So Pastel Matte takes me a little more to get to that malleability. I have some favorite tools. I use pastel pencils for blending and details. I love the color shapers for when the pastel gets on there pretty thick and my fingers would interrupt the layers too much. And the hockey brushes are very soft and they allow me to brush out some of the heaviness of the pastel without disturbing it too much. Really love those. This is my some variations on my plein air setup. I have a Take It easel, also known as a Gloucester easel, good for tall people like me, and it's got these brackets that I can put my Heilman box, not a Hellman box. And then I also love a half French. I can set the Heilman box on that. And then I also have the tripod attachment, which makes the setup. The first two are much bulkier, but the third one is very compact because I can fold up that tripod and put it all in a backpack. And those students who worked with me have seen how that works and do it also. Any questions so far?
I was just going to ask you, Mary, I've just fallen in love with the mixed media panels now because I love the way they take the pastel. But I also, when I started them, someone recommended J. Luda to me, pastels, and I'm really digging those. Have you tried those?
Can you spell that,
Yeah.
Margie?
It's Jluda.
No, I've not heard of that.
Yeah, probably based on your level of professionalism, I'll probably send you some free samples.
Oh, well, I always love to try new things. So yeah, thank you very much for that. I would love to try them.
I think you're gonna like them.
Nice. Well, you know, it sure is a world of difference. There's a world of difference between what people were able to get in 50s, 60s, 70s, and now, gosh, we just have so many wonderful options for pastels, and they all have their strengths, and we're so lucky. The getting into the outdoor figure, it's super, super, super important, first and foremost, to think about light quality and not just start painting, but really think about how the light is organizing your shapes. What is the temperature of the light? What is the intensity of light? I'm going to go through all this in my demo, but this is just a background for considerations that a person should have before they organize that two-dimensional space with a figure in it. Temperature and intensity, and you'll see what I mean as we go. Huge is foreground, background, and space considerations. If you put a figure in a warm, dark room, you're going to have a lot of lost edges, and you're going to have you can potentially have a lot of simplification. With an outdoor figure, there are so many more variables. There are clouds, there are trees, there are buildings, there are flowers, there are plants. How much of that are you going to include? How little? And really, at the end of the day, and this is probably the most challenging and exciting part, is that when you pose that figure in the environment, there's back to synergy. You might have an idea for what you think you want for a painting, but when the model gets there and starts posing and you're taking in the light and you're taking in the surroundings and your peripheral vision is picking up on things and you hear the sounds like bird song, it's going to contribute to a much bigger story. And it's really super, super exciting. How does your feeling of the figure change with varying backgrounds? Using a composition finder to zero in on the figure, back up from the figure, that's really important. And if there's more than one figure at varying depths in the space, you need to make sure your perspective is accurate, that every single figure hangs on the horizon line. And if you read Andrew Loomis, there's a whole tutorial about how to hang the figure, in varying depths and spaces based on your horizon line. And I'll show you that a little later. The other thing about the figure is that depending on how much of the face is manifest, it has the potential, we gravitate to the face or faces. How are other elements in that painting going to detract from or contribute to the sense of the face? And really, I would have to say that painting the figure in the environment, it's not the figure, it's the other compositional elements that are really super challenging. So this was a little demo I did for Art School Live with Eric Rhodes back in 2021, and it was trying to highlight the differences between a dramatic dappled light and a soft cool light. And this goes back to the light. Depending on the light, you're going to have a completely different mood and a different feeling. And you're going to be organizing your shapes very differently depending on the light. You know, in a stronger light shadow pattern, you don't have to be quite as careful with anatomy. But if you're going to do, for example, in this one, anatomy of the back, you better have some rudimentary knowledge of basic human anatomy so that you can understand very, very, very subtle plane changes, because cool, soft light is all about subtlety. And where the bones and muscles manifest themselves are going to be very, very subtle temperature and value shifts. So that's why the light is so deeply important. This is a painting that I wanted to do for a long time. My students who came to Spain with me remember me hiring a flamenco dancer. And then later, we went and saw a flamenco performance. So I'm trying to do something that is almost impossible for me. I don't know that I'll be able to do it in a final painting. But I was on the left, this is in gouache, by the way, and you can see the size. I'm trying to work out, do I want a dappled light as it was in the courtyard of the place we were staying, or do I want a backlight, which is where she was dancing outside on the patio? What tells my story better? What feels better? How can I organize the shapes better? And this one is still really, really dogging me. And I'm not sure how to resolve it. So, but again, the point is it's all about the light. It's all about the light. This is a painting that I think possibly fails on some compositional levels. It was unbelievably hard to do. I started over 3 times. And I was trying, when you have an elongated figure like this, how do you know, that hip is it's pretty much dead center. And I did this painting years ago, and I can see now that maybe losing some edges on the right. I tried to use some diagonals on the right to kind of keep leading back. The background I abstracted drastically. You know, I could have put a few leaves on the ground to maybe put some green down there. But this was a painting that I think I bring up because I think at some level it fails compositionally. The distance between the arm and the left side is similar to the hip to the top and from the feet to the right.
Yeah.
Those three distances are all equal. And I think that maybe I could have put her at an angle, or I could have done something different. So I'm here to tell you folks, it's really a challenge to manage the background elements. And when you have an elongated figure, how do you, how do you compensate with some verticality? I tried to do that with the drape and with a suggestion of a tree in the background. So anyway, it's a challenge, and I don't always hit the mark. Okay, so here's what we're going to work on today. I'm going to do today. This is a person I met at the Festival of Art. She was a security person, and she came over to model for me, and I told her she could wear anything she wanted, and this is how she showed up. It was very sweet. And you can see that I did a plein air study, and the painting that I'm choosing to do is not based on my study, and that's okay. Because if there's one thing that I really want to emphasize is that it's always, always, always worth the effort to do the study, because there's something about that experience that gets baked into your own DNA. And when you go to do a different painting, a different pose, I remember our conversation. I remember her telling me that she was a seamstress and loved to make clothes. She had a really lovely family. And they all played cards together on Saturday night. And so it was just, so I'm going to take that experience and put it into this painting. And you can see that, I don't really want the street and the stop sign in the background. I mean, it could tell it, if that's your story, that might be kind of interesting. Red dress, red stop sign, but it has to be your story. So I'm going to show you next some ideas that I have for some color palettes and how to simplify and organize this. Now, let me preface this by saying I've been enrolled in Skip Whitcomb's class through the Tucson Art Academy online, The Power of Orchestrated Color. And I myself personally am trying to really trying to harmonize my color and get it a little, and exploring some different color palettes. And in a nutshell, we all know about triads, we all know about secondaries and tertiaries. We know about those things, but what this course is about is basically doing with color what musicians do with chords. There are color chords, and if you can find some harmonics, like the harmonics is what the musicians listen for. We're looking for visual harmony. So I'm going to show you a couple of ideas that I used to develop this painting. This is my quick thumbnail. You can see I wanted to try to organize the elements, and I usually do a no-tan black and white. I don't have that here, but I felt satisfied enough with this that I could zero in on what I wanted to do. Okay, here's my triad palette, red, yellow, blue, and you can see that I've completely invented the background, and I've tried to use some diagonals to keep pointing at her, but I'm going to give this some considerations. It's like the photo, but it yields an equal distribution of warm and cool, maybe a little more on the cool. But an equal distribution of light and dark. And there's a guy by the name of Greg Albert who wrote a book, The Simple Secret for Better Painting, and the key variables are mostly, some, and a little bit. So I want it to be, is there mostly some and a little bit relative to light and dark? I would say no. I would say that there's an equal distribution of light and dark, and I would like one to predominate. I do like the complements here. I really do. They're the red green. I enjoy that, but there's really a strong dominance on the figure and less so on the flowers, because I know that we always will gravitate to the face. I'm wanting to figure out, how can I subdue this where the figure is a little bit more integrated into the entire story of the landscape. So I tried what's called a seventh. Go ahead.
Okay. I think someone else
Oh,
was
somebody else have a
asked. I think it was Eva, perhaps. Well, if they would ask the question or put it in chat, I can get it to you as well. Oh, what was the last book that you mentioned about little bits of
It's by Greg Albert. It's called
Okay.
The Simple Secret to Better Painting.
All right, thank you.
And he does mostly some and a little bit, and that's mostly some and a little bit relative to light dark, relative to saturation. Question? Okay, well, keep those questions coming. I'm moving along here, and but if it's too fast or you need me to go back, please shout out. This is called a seventh chord, and it's you start out on with yellow, you move 2, that gives me green, then you move 3 to blue violet, then 4 back to red orange. And the thing that I like about this palette is that it's mostly cool with just a little bit of warm. But then I asked myself, are the light and dark two equal? And so I used Procreate to push the background a little bit lighter and just experiment and throw a little bit of green, reflected green into the dress just to see how that feels. Feels more integrated into the environment. This is the general progression I use when I do pastels. Once I finally have my color plan and my idea figured out, this happens to be on UArt. I start with the line drawing, and then I just start blocking in heavy-handed. And the way I work is that these pastels, even the creamy ones, are so pigment rich that I will brush off the excess pigment. It leaves behind a beautiful stain and plenty of tooth for me to keep building up more and more layers.
So with that, Mary, you're using a pencil for your line drawing?
Yeah, I just use any pencil
Okay.
that I can see, something hard, a hard pastel pencil or a Conte crayon or something.
Great.
And I tend I like to use something that's a little on the warm side.
All right.
Any questions?
That's great.
Okay. You can find my work on my website and on Instagram, and I have a workshop in Crete, Greece, October 10th through 17th. And I'm participating in a show in France in October, November. And eventually I'd like to do some online teaching, but I've been so busy. But in the meantime, you can find a couple of YouTube videos and some, and nothing fancy, shorts and stuff like that. And the Bold Brush interview was a couple months ago. So
now on the screen where we can see your board, you have to share that one.
there.
Perfect. That's great.
Okay. All righty. Away we go here. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can how I can draw sideways. We'll give it a try. Okay, so you can see that I've positioned my figure in the rectangle here roughly according to this. I don't end up usually mounting my paintings until I'm completely finished, because after the painting's finished, I might change my mind as opposed for what I'd like to do. I might want to add a little bit at the bottom or crop it at the top. So I tend to wait to do that. And like I said before, I just use a warm pastel to just do a very light line drawing. And with Floral subject, I don't really measure too much. With a figure, I take a little bit more time to do it. And, I'm not really needing to do a perfect portrait of her, so I'm not measuring as much as I might. But it always helps to get the attitude of the head with the lines, the center line, the eye line, the nose is down here, corners of her mouth are here, her chin comes down here. We get her dress, that lovely, she had this wonderful braid, wonderful long braid. And her hand was kind of reaching out to a flower, and she had this hand kind of cupped over here. And then where does the dress come out? Here, comes out about, where's her elbow? Okay, I stand back a lot. And I will measure and line things up. Good drawing is all about plumb lines, horizontal lines. How do things line up? Okay. Now let me just loosely suggest the roses here. Let me go back here a little bit, get that hand. Now, when I think about the background, this is where the challenge comes in is, what am I going to put there? I could put anything. I could invent something completely different. The most important thing, though, is that to keep the light consistent. And this is a little bit backlit. So let's just, if there's a sunny spot on the ground here, I want to have some directional lines point to her. If they do or not, I don't know that I care. Nobody's gonna, I just want to make sure that the lines are kind of pointing where I want them to go. I want to keep this distance unequal. Same, the reclining figure I showed you before had major compositional problems that way, where I wasn't keeping this space and this space, the lead in and the exit, unequal. I kind of like the suggestion of something vertical up here, casting like a big shadow down here. What's going to happen in this corner? Well, I like the suggestion of some calligraphic lines over here, and I've already got them up here. Okay, that's about as much as I would do. Any questions so far? Don't hesitate. Okay. I've got a artist error. I've got a Hughes easel, which I love. It's a counterbalanced easel, moves left to right, up and down. And I've got the artist air with a little bit of with the little shelf on it, where I can put my selection of pastels. And I will definitely show that palette to you here after we're finished. And I'm thinking about my my 7th chord palette of yellow, green, blue, violet, and red, orange. I'm going to start with the figure, and I tend to start with the lightest light, darkest dark. And it's really up here in the where the hairline meets the background. And I'm just going to indicate that real nice and strong. And I'm going to decide, do I want the straps of her dress to be light? I think I do. I can make them anything I want. Okay, this is giving me some goalposts and some benchmarks for how to modulate the value structure here. And I'm going to have a lot of roses over here, but keep in mind that anytime you isolate a small light, it's going to stand out more than some of these. This is going to be a larger cluster, but this is going to really, really stand out because it's isolated. Based on what I said about my study, I was saying, gosh, I used Procreate to, and this, I push this back. Keep in mind that when, all of you know this, when you first put the pastel on a light surface, it's going to look really, really dark like that. But the more you work it, it's going to pull to the midtones. At least the way I do it, and that's okay because so don't be afraid of this now. This is going to give us a lot of kind of rich base transparency, and we can always lighten. It's always easier to lighten a dark than to darken a light. So it looks a little bit strong right now, but it will with adding colors, we will neutralize it a bit or bring it down in intensity and value. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, I'm thinking about what's the temperature of my light? It's pretty darn warm. So I'm going to put a nice spot of warm here, and I'm going to just really, I'm thinking of that yellow. Let me get that in here, in that back light. It's gonna catch the edge of those bushes back there, and let's get a nice warm sky. Any questions so far? Everyone's so quiet.
Did you mention what paper you were using before? I'm sorry, I didn't catch.
Say again, sorry.
What paper are you using?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. This is Sennelier Lacarte, my all-time favorite. My all-time favorite. This is why you landscape painters are really fortunate, because if you've read Carlson's Guide to Landscape Painting, and he talks about the different planes and how they receive light. And if you have the flat plane, if the light is overhead, the flat plane is going to be the lightest, the vertical planes are going to be the darkest, and the transitional planes are going to be halfway in between. They're not going to be, or they're going to be lighter. They're not going to be this is going to be very light, very light. This is going to be dark. And this is going to be gray. So if you paint in the landscape, you see that, you know that, you experience that, and it works to your advantage. Okay, I'm going to start getting the dress in here. And I'm looking at my study, my little gouache study over here. I'm looking for some blue violets. That's a little dirty. Let's see, let me get some blue violet in here. Okay, now let's get some skin tones going here. Too dark. Pastel pencils for a figure of this size work very well. Back to plains, there are going to be a lot of greens in here. Warm greens. Okay, well, I'm thinking about the fact that those warm greens are going to reflect up into her face. So I'm going to take this green pencil and I'm going to just put it in here right now. And you might say, geez, you know, that's a little too much, but keep in mind that pastel pencils do not impart very much pigment. They are not going to muck around with the other heavier layers of pastel that you're going to put in there. So no worry there. The light is shining through the ears. I'm going to tip over here. Oh, by the way, this is just my quick palette that I'm working from right here. It's the 7th chord palette, and it's honestly makes painting a lot easier at some level. Just to I've always kind of done color a bit intuitively, but I Kim Lortier recommended that I take that class, and I'm really glad I did. Light shining through the ears is always real strong. Let me carve around her head here a little bit, so I can see it. Okay, let's get some skin tones in there. Her face is basically one tone. There's a really lovely glow. This part here is very, very light. Let me get her shoulder in. There's her shoulder, and then the top part of her shoulder. And the rest of this is all very dark. Very dark. Okay, there's a really nice glow on the back side of her arm right here. I'm not going to be, I can be very heavy-handed. And let me show you often if I don't have pencils. Here's a very creamy, creamy soft pastel. And so that looks, ooh boy, that looks just crazy strong. But I can come back in here and I can brush that pigment out. I can see it falling off. And what it does is it neutralizes the intensity. And as I keep working this, it's really going to, I'm going to have that nice stain. This is the equivalent of what oil painters do when they paint fat over lean. I put a bunch of fat paint in here, and now I'm making it lean. And by making it lean, what does that mean? That means that I can build up some layers here. And boy, I can see it so beautifully. I don't know if you can. There is just a beautiful transition of, you know, painting skin outside is just an unbelievably exciting experience. It just, the skin just glows. Okay, this is a little bit strong. Okay, I'm going to do my favorite thing and just really blend that all together. It looks a little garish right now, but in context, it will begin to read very nicely. Okay, let me get some eyes in there. You know, you'll notice that I kind of jump around a little bit, and I think by doing that, I really want to I want to keep a sense of the totality. I don't want to just get locked into one area and then lose the sense of the whole. So let's see here. Let me get some eyebrows in here. There's the eyebrow, and then her eye, and hint of her nose, and oh my gosh, you can, you know, we're not doing details here. We're doing just real soft suggestions. And I'm going to go grab something really quick. And while I do, I want you to think very much about the planes. If you, at Carlson's Guide to Landscape Painting, where you can see the planes in the landscape, if you apply that same concept to the planes of the head, it's only logical that, for example, this part of the cheek will catch the light of the sky and it'll be cool. This is going to be cool. This part is going to be cooler. There's going to be beautiful transitions of warm and cool. And, you know, when you think about planes, with that warm light of the roses and the ground and the green bouncing up, there's going to be a lot of warm reflected light here. We see it on her cheek. It's going to come under her chin. It's going to be in the underside of these eye sockets. The reason men are easier to, like this, are easier to paint is simply because you can see the distinctions. With this, it's the same idea. You have to read into this. And say, okay, there's going to be some reflected green here and on the underside of her nose. And right here, there's going to be on the top of her cheek. That's not light enough. Got to grab a lighter one. Let's see. Let's see here. On the top of her cheek, right here, it's going to be cool because it's catching the light of the sky, which is cool. Cooler. It's all relative. I'm going to try to pull that in so that you can, and then I'll pull it back. You can see the, and it's honestly quite difficult to do at this size. It's easier to do it when it's a little bit larger.
Yeah.
More questions, keep them coming. So let's see, let me get a little bit more of her eye here. And there's
What was the name of the class that Kim Lordier told you to take?
it's called The Power of Orchestrated Color through the Tucson. It's by Skip Whitcomb, and it's through the Tucson Art Academy. They have a really, really, really wonderful selection of classes. Okay, what's this hand doing? That comes here. Okay. And it's all online, which is very nice. Okay. Okay, that's starting to gel a bit. I'm gonna make a nice transition here. I see this real warm, and then there's a transition of blue right here. And I'm gonna mush all that together, staying within my palette. Okay, as the top, here's the top of the shoulder. Let me get that in. It's nice and warm. And I love this real sharp edge where the dress casts a shadow. That's a little too dark, but
Mary, one of our artists asked if this was your final painting or still a study.
I think it will be a final painting. I'll probably, if it turns out well, I will probably take it down to Mission Fine Art Gallery.
Great.
Okay, let me pull some, let's see, what's happening down here? Yeah, no more questions? Any more? I hear or is that a dog barking? Margie, is that your dog? I like dogs, so no worry.
Yes, that's my golden
Oh, that's
retriever. He's
that's a-
very jealous. I had too many phone calls today, so he's upset with me.
Okay, so let me stop there. Let's start to flesh this out a little bit. And this is one thing that I do that a lot of people say is absolutely verboten in pastel. They say, no, 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 you're not supposed to do that. And I say that if you can make an oil painting look like a watercolor and that's what you like, why wouldn't you do that? Last I checked, I'm the boss and I can decide what I like and what I don't like. And the thing that we need to keep in mind with pastel is that it's about the granular size, the grain size. And by virtue of doing this, as opposed to this, I'm just changing the grain size. It's all optical blending. And my first layers are all very blended like this. And then the deeper I go, the less blended they become. And we know that pastels are unbelievably forgiving. And so I've got these lines here, but I also know that I have worked outside enough that there's a lot of blues in the shadows and I can just cover those up. Let's make them a little more violet and really try to integrate our color scheme here. Okay. Harmonize is the word I want. Harmonize the color scheme. Okay, let's start getting some roses in here. Now, one thing I've noticed, and I'm going to do it right now, and it works really well with the color scheme because I've got a very little warm against a cool, and I am going to be cooling this. This is quite warm right now, but I am going to cool it down. When you look through bushes and leaves, there's an incredible warm glow down there. And as the light shines through, and so I've learned from painting lots of rose bushes that that's what they look like. It's going to give me some warms that integrate with this. And when I start to build in, I can go over that with some lovely dark stems that will constitute these roses. And it gives me a feeling of some atmosphere and depth here. And it helps me work with my color palette. I didn't really finish this. I just did, but that's okay. I want to keep working here to, let me put a little reflected light here. Okay. The ear needs to have A little light on top. That's where a pastel pencil really shines. Okay. I have used styrofoam peanuts. But usually I just find my hand is just the best. And I love this part because it feels to me like I'm starting to build in some atmosphere. And because I know this is backlit, why don't I pull some pieces of light back there? That feels kind of good. Okay, now let's start to build in these roses. And let's see. Here's an important thing to note when you are painting something like roses is you don't want this. You don't want to be literal and do this. You want to cluster things. And you want to lead the eye directionally. So I noticed here that it feels, well, in one of my other ones, let's see. This is even better relative to the roses. It gives a feeling of kind of some movement up like this. So I don't have to copy what I see. I can use the light scheme for what I want. But I like the clustering. And it's interesting because we as human beings, we want things in order, we want to arrange things, we want them to be predictable, but we don't want them to be too arranged and too predictable. There's something in us that likes just a little bit of a variation, a little bit of that dissonance, if you will, or a little we want to be surprised. I want to make some of these different sizes. I'm going to pull some in over here. I know from painting roses outside many times that they have, ooh, that cool is so nice. I'm going to put some of that. Ooh, that cool. Ooh, that's good. Look at that cool up there. That's a cooler green that works up there. These roses have a light side and a shadow side in this sort of dramatic light. And let me emphasize that a little bit more. It needs to be a little more dramatic. Let's see. No, I need to get a little bit of a darker color. A little bluer, a little darker, blue violet, thinking blue violet, blue violet. There we go. So there are going to be some of these roses that are deep down in shadow. And they're starting to, and I've got this kind of hedge thing right here. I don't really like that. I don't want that there. So I'm going to say that there are clusters of these roses down here in the shadow. And I'm just simply using my shadow color. Already I've broken this up a little bit. I'm getting a little carried away, and I want to cluster these in the right way. Here's a very stiff little brush. How about I run a couple stems through and break it up? Such a forgiving medium. We're so lucky. I'm not thinking detail. I mean, these roses have this very warm, dark center, and I will put those in, but I want to get the overall pattern, and I want to feel satisfied with what I have. Now, here's another thing to think about. you know, we do have a sense of some horizontals here, but this is primarily, we've got a vertical figure, we have a vertical aspect. Let's put some roses on the horizontal. Let's get a feeling of a horizontal as a complement to the vertical, as a counterpoint. Okay, what's happening over here? Let's put, oh, I kind of like that. Okay. Now what behind it? See, this space right here, I have absolutely no idea what to do with it. It's really a challenge. There, I don't, it's the street, it's the sidewalk, it's, so, you know, I really love some of these dark leaves, but how do I integrate them into the painting? How, and I don't like that at all. That just doesn't feel right. So let me just erase that with the equivalent of a pastel. Okay. You know, I talked about this real nice rich warm down here. Why don't I put some here just to, you know, maybe I can vignette this, you know, maybe it doesn't have to have anything. Maybe it'll have a nice little vignette. Okay. Questions, please ask if anybody has any questions at all. I'm gonna pick up some lights. Oh, also, here's some fleshing out we can do of the flowers. Once I feel like I've got the feeling of the flowers, where the flower meets the stem is very warm. So I can put kind of a warm base. Okay, I still haven't put in the little center of the rose yet, but I will. Okay, back to the figure. The reason I like working this way is it helps my I don't, it's too easy to get my head closer and closer and closer, and pretty soon I can't see it anymore. I've lost the feeling of the gestalt of the whole. And I want to make sure that I do that. Oh, I know something I forgot. Okay, so this is all very dark, but what about this? This dark and these darks can't be equivalent. I've got to have, just like I've got light, 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 I've got light in the roses, but what about light in the leaves? I've got to get some nice light greens in here. Over here. You know, at this point, I'm hardly looking, I'm just looking at my photo as a general idea, but not, and just for color and maybe some placement. Uh-oh, here I gotta, let's see, that'll give me a nice stem. There's some buds up there. Generally speaking, I do this sort of thing last after I get, you know, those are some of the last marks and they're completely unblended. But let me go back here. This area is kind of unresolved yet. I'm looking at my study. Um, um, Here's another thing that's really, really important to think about. And I'm gonna actually tape this off now that I kind of know where the edge is here. It's gonna be roughly here. This black tape, I can't live without it. On the bottom. You know, there are all kinds of composition theories, the golden ratio, harmonic armature, rebatement, blah, blah, blah. I generally follow, you know, sort of the rule of thirds, I guess. I have tried plotting some things out with harmonic armature and stuff. I think it's good to know, no, but ultimately it has to feel right. And um, you know, some of the Russian painters were really amazing at putting their center of interest right in their primary focal point in the dead center, but they were very skilled at managing the elements around. So I think it's good to know those theories, but ultimately I think it has to feel right. Now I've got this painting going all the way up here. How do I change it if I do this? What does that do? How does that feel? One thing I've learned about my own work lately is that I need to crop the heck out of things. I am putting way too much into my work. And I have found that by cropping, I can improve it. But then I ask myself, well, what's the story? What's the story here? If I you know, what's up here? Does this contribute to or detract from the story? And everybody has to find their own story. It's your story. It's what you um feel, what you want to say. I tend to like paintings that have a little bit of a background in them. But boy, not easy. Okay, let me get the top of her ear in again. What's our time like? Oh, we're good. Any more? Please ask questions. Does anybody have any questions at all?
When you put in the spray of roses kind of vertical at first, and then you added another spray that was kind of horizontal, why did you do the horizontal one?
I did the horizontal because I wanted a counterpoint to the prevailing vertical. And I was experimenting with what happens if I have kind of a feeling of the eye going across. However, do I, you know, do I want to do that or not? So it was just a way to get a vertical, or I mean a horizontal in there, because my aspect. Now, here's an important thing, and his name is Mitch. Got to write his name down. These are the first four lines of your composition. This is the most important detail. And by virtue of choosing a vertical composition, I am telling myself that I have to incorporate some horizontal counterpoints to that. Does that make sense? Okay, this is feeling okay. Um, let's see, where am I gonna go? I'm moving the violet around, which is handy because the shadows have a violet propensity to be violet. Ooh, that's nice. But I also, they're backlit, or they're catching the light here in certain spots. Let's see.
One of our artists asked, when do you use the wake brush?
When do I use what?
Is
The
it
hockey
wake or
brush?
hake? Yeah, hake brush.
I use it often. I haven't had
Okay.
it out here handy, but it's I should have. I love it. I can now, just to get in the way of just a demonstration of why I love it. Thank you for asking that question. I mean, it just very gently pulls off the excess pigment without ruining the detail that I have. And I use these a lot as evidence that by this one. This one's just,
Mhm.
I can't use this one anymore. So,
I've been employing my very small fan brush.
oh, the fan brush is nice. That's good, Margie. Margie, that's good.
I also, when you were asking about cropping your vertical painting, I
Yeah.
really like the mountains and the sky. So,
Well, I do too. To me it gives that feeling of depth.
mhm.
Just adds something for me. I'm in agreement.
And also the composition that you did with the strong vertical and horizontal is in one of my composition books. It's called the cross
Oh,
composition, which I've used
oh, you mean
on
the
a
one of
number.
the one of the nude figure in is that the one you're talking about?
No, it can, and it's one of the compositional formats. It's called the cross, and I've used it a
Oh,
lot of times, like in flower scenes or trying to keep the eye in the composition going upwards to the upward plane.
yes. Well, I would love to know more about that.
I have a little workshop sheet on that that I can send you.
Can you send that to me? That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
I use this is a color shaper and I had it in the list and it's I use a smaller one usually, but I can't find it. But this comes in really, really handy for just some of these variations here in the face. Blending them out. Let's see, her eyes are a little more really dark here. And this forehead. Okay, her shoulder. There's a lot of refinement yet to do here. And you won't be able to see it because it's so small, but I hope you get the idea of how you just keep you know, working it, pulling it together, little by little,
Right.
little by little. This area here is not right. It's a little bit light and it's got to be darker. Let's see. So let me make sure I get that nice and dark. And then I also can really darken my, get some dark greens in here. You know, at the very end, as I work this, it again, it's you know, you end up working in this range, and at the very end, you come in and you and that's a good thing, because you come in and you restate your light,
Right.
and you can restate the darks, because this working gives you room to do that, and that's part of the gratification, I think. So I mean, when I put that green in, it was really dark, but now, because I've been working it, it pulls the value up, so now I can come in and I can create edges around some of these roses and have them start push the background back, pull the roses forward. Put some line work here. Now, this is where it gets really fun too, is that because this pastel is super dark, but it looks looks light against, I don't know if you can see that, it starts to look light against the dark that I have put down. I can see, let me see if I can get closer. You know, this is very, very dark right here, but against this dark, it's lighter.
Yes. Mhm.
And that gives us room now to work. Let's see, what's going on in here? Should there be a rose here? You know, I'm going to put in some of those centers. Let's put a center right here. And surrounding that center is a warm, tends to be well, I'll do the yellow part first, and then here's the warm dark. Okay, there's a center there. This one's very orange. Red orange, that's good. Let's see, this one is really dark. And so on and so forth. Shadow, let's put a shadow on, you know, everything. It's got to have a shadow side and a light side, because I'm working in more dramatic light. You know what? No excuses. Painting a painting sideways. I mean, I'm sitting so sideways. I'm looking at this at such an oblique angle. I have to look at the screen to see how it looks. But that's okay. Okay. Any more questions?
What a wonderful demo. Wow. I'm blown away.
I'm gonna quit painting altogether. I'll never catch
Oh,
it.
no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. This part, let's see. You know what I do need to do though? I've got to put a little red on her lips. Let's see here. Drawing is a little off right here. Okay, here's an interesting little detail that I'm really happy to point out. This reflected light here is warmer than this. And I think you all know why now, right? This is where it gets really, really fun. This is cooler because this part of the arm is pointing to the sky. This one is warmer because it's not pointing to the sky. It's the same value, but it's a temperature shift. Right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, I just accidentally put this yellow here, but I kind of like the vibrancy there, and probably because it's really vibrating with the violet, and so how can I incorporate some of that here in the light? Let's see. Oh, whoopsie, I forgot some of these down here. Okay, I could really, to properly, let's see if I can do a little bit more on her face. Let me get some. Remember, I want to integrate. I don't want this background sitting behind her like a separate painting. I need to integrate the two. So if I have some suggestion of a diagonal. There we go. Okay, let's see. Take that off. It's distracting. We're getting to a point where you make a mark, stand back, make a mark, stand back, make a mark, stand back. But I'm not going to stand back, obviously, for you guys. So, but that's kind of the idea. This is a big Rembrandt or unison. These big jumbo unisons really last. And you know what? I can see, oh my, I can see that this is really oversaturated. It looks quite a bit darker to me. But that's just a function of the light that I've got going here. It overexposes things a little bit. Makes the lights lighter than they look. Okay, I'm sure you've got to have a couple more questions.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
How is your process different if you paint very large?
It's exactly the same. I do a line drawing, and I I usually just, I block in with, like I did, the green in the background, and then I put the sweep of the green and just work outward from my focal point. It's exactly the same. And honestly, I have to say I love working large because when you're working on these 6-foot paintings, man, you feel like you're in them. They are, it's just the craziest feeling when, because as I work, like for example, working an arm, I feel like I'm touching the arm. And
Mhm.
it feels like sculpture, and it's just honestly an absolute thrill. It is a thrill. I find, part of the gallery in San Juan, it's a wonderful gallery. I love it. The people are just wonderful. It's a great place. But people tend to, I've sold some large paintings there, but in general, they want small paintings for good reason. I mean, they're less expensive and they take up less room on your wall. But I find it honestly quite difficult to paint small paintings. And I don't know. I just like to work large, I guess. But it is a lot of, I'll tell you the variable too is the cost to frame a large pastel is prohibitive. And it's very expensive. And but boy, does that museum plexiglass, it's absolutely incredible. Yeah, this is like doing dental surgery in here, I think. Trying to work her face with the, and that's where the pastel pencils are very, very helpful. Okay.
Do you have a special brand that you like in the pastel pencils, or you use a mixture?
I use a mixture. These, I have the Contes, I have the Cretacolor. They're a mixture. Yeah.
About the red in the lower left corner, is that gonna stay?
This?
Yeah.
No, it won't. And thanks for asking that question. It's going to be covered up with some stems.
Hmm.
Let's see here. It's um it's just, I've put it in there because it adds a glow, and it's something that I've observed when working outside. And it gives just a feeling of air, but it just the hint of it will remain. And let me pick out a couple of these that where they actually really have the character of the rose. Point, the little points and the I think that's about all I can manage that give the tonight. Let's see, what else would I do? I would work this hand. I would refine the hand. There's a thumb. and it's so obviously reflecting the blue of the sky. I'd work the hand, I'd refine the face. I'd probably take and put at the end, I'd use a pastel pencil to have some wisps of hair. I would put maybe just a little bit of chest anatomy here. There's a little hint of the clavicle right here, just ever so slight. What else would I do? I'd keep fleshing these out. I would, let's see. This is a pastel pencil. It's good for, you know, adding, I would add some buds.
Mary, if you how can people send you questions or notes? Are you on Facebook or Instagram or?
I'm on Instagram, and you can always text me, or you can email me. And
Okay.
my email address is my name, Mary, at maryaslin.com. And
Oh, okay. That's what I needed.
and then my
Mary at maryaslin.com. Okay.
yes, and my cell phone number is 949-812-1429. You're welcome to text me too. Let's see, what else? I would I want to make sure that there's a real sharp edge right here on her shoulder. I'd redefine some of the edges. There's a cast shadow right on the where her dress casts a bit of a cast shadow right there. You know, all of the small marks. There are lots of dry buds that have already bloomed, and they're kind of a gold brown. I might put some of those in. Stems of roses tend to be red, and that works really nicely because remember, I wanted to have this be more of a cool painting, but I can incorporate some red on the stems in here. Once again, to move the color around. Oh, I see something that's kind of cool here. There's some, I didn't do this before, but there's some stems, and this is kind of nice because it breaks up her arm a little bit. Oh gosh, that's so overexposed. The light is so strong there. Anyway, there you have it. Let's see, we're at 8:20. We've gone 20 minutes over, but really happy to field any more questions that you have. You can email me, no problem.
Great. Thank you. This has been one of the best Zoom meetings I think we've ever had. The amount of information that
Oh,
you got
good.
to us.
Well, I'm glad. You know, it's anything that I can do to help you. You know, these are the, you know, I'm talking to myself, guys. I'm trying to you're just hearing kind of a stream of consciousness here, and to the extent that it might help you, I'm very thrilled that that might be the case. So
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Mary. We really enjoyed this and appreciate it. And if I make a quick announcement, our Make Your Mark International Show is now open, and it will be open until July 1st. So all you guys wanting to enter that, get ready. So,
So we
alrighty.
can, that's on online, right?
Yes.
Okay, online jewelry shows. Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Keep on
Huh?
painting, paint from life, and paint from life, and just keep on going. You know, you never arrive, but that's part of the fun, right?
Yep.
Definitely.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, guys,
Good
take
night,
care.
all.
I might be here at midnight, so if you call me tonight,
You might get a few text messages from me.
that's great. Happy for that.